The last thing I remembered was fire. Not the clean, blue flame of a controlled engine burn, but the angry, orange-red roar of a hull breach feeding on pure oxygen. My escape pod, a cramped coffin designated Epsilon 7, had been punched out of the UCV Thermopylae like a seed from a rotting fruit. The ship, my home for 3 years, was being torn apart by Curvarian raiders. I saw it tumble away from me, a blossoming flower of debris against the tapestry of stars, before my pod tumbled into the upper atmosphere of an uncharted world and everything went black. Consciousness returned in fragments, a sensation of falling, the shriek of metal against atmosphere, a bone-jarring impact that tasted like copper, then silence. The deepest, most profound silence I had ever known, broken only by the slow, rhythmic drip of some unknown liquid and the hiss of escaping pressure from a cracked viewport. My name is Corporal Eristhorn, and I was supposed to be dead. Opening my eyes felt like lifting starship bulkheads. My vision swam, focusing slowly on a ceiling of twisted metal and dangling vines. The air was thick, humid, and carried a sweet, cloying scent, like overripe fruit left to rot in the sun. My body was a single, unified scream of agony. I tried to move my arm, and a lightning bolt of pain shot through my shoulder, pinning me to the cracked acceleration couch. Broken. Definitely broken. I was trapped. Dying. The emergency medkit was just out of reach, crushed under a panel that had sheared off during the crash. My suit's bioreader, cracked and sparking on my wrist, flashed a single, terrifying word. Internal hemorrhaging detected. So this was it. Not a blaze of glory, not a heroic last stand against the Corver. Just a slow, quiet bleed out in a crashed pod on a world whose name I didn't know. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had survived the vacuum of space, the raid, the fiery descent, only to die because I couldn't reach a roll of field bandages. My thoughts grew fuzzy. The edges of my vision darkened. I thought of my mother, back on Centauri Prime, waiting for a communication that would never come. I thought of the ocean I had only seen in vids. I thought of how cold I was becoming, despite the oppressive humidity. I let my eyes close, surrendering to the weight pressing down on my chest. The drip, drip, drip of the unknown liquid became a lullaby. Then I felt a touch. It was cool, dry, and impossibly gentle against my feverish forehead. I thought it was a dream, a final neurological spasm before the end. But then the touch moved, tracing the line of my jaw with a feather-light caress. A sound reached my ears, cutting through the fog of oblivion. A soft, hiccuping sob. With a strength I didn't know I possessed, I forced my eyes open. She was there. Her face hovered inches from mine, framed by the jagged hole in my viewport where the vines had crept in. It was the face of an angel sculpted from moonlight and sorrow. Her skin was the color of pearl, flawless and smooth, seeming to emit its own soft luminescence in the dimness of the pod. Her hair was not hair at all, but a cascade of fine, silver tendrils that moved with a life of their own, drifting in the still air like seaweed in a gentle current. But it was her eyes that held me captive. They were huge, impossibly deep, and the color of molten amethyst. And from them, tears streamed down her pale cheeks. Actual tears, glistening like liquid diamonds. And then I saw her mouth. Her lips, the color of pale lavender, were slightly parted. And from behind them, 2 delicate, needle-sharp fangs rested against her lower lip. I tried to jerk back, but my broken body refused to obey. A whimper, a pathetic, terrified sound, escaped my throat. Her eyes widened, and she flinched, pulling back as if I had struck her. The silver tendrils of her hair whipped around her face in agitation. "You live," she whispered. Her voice was like wind chimes, melodic and haunting, but laced with an accent that twisted the syllables into something utterly alien. "You live, little bright one." She reached for me again, and this time I managed to croak out a word. "Don't." She froze, her hand hovering over my chest. The tears continued to fall. "You are hurting," she said, stating it as a simple, heartbreaking fact. "The light inside you is fading. It is growing dim." She was talking about my life force, my soul. Whatever she was, she could see it, and it was making her cry. "I am dying," I rasped, the words scraping against my dry throat. "If you're going to feed on me, just get it over with." A look of such profound horror crossed her face that, even in my state, I felt a pang of guilt. "Feed," she breathed, the word dripping with disgust. "You think I am a leech? A parasite?" She pressed a hand to her own chest, over where her heart should be. "We are the Vesper. We are the keepers of the dying flame. We feel the fading. We mourn." She looked at my broken body, at the blood seeping through my torn uniform, and a new wave of tears flowed. "I felt you fall from the sky. I felt your light, so bright, so fierce. And then I felt it begin to gutter and die. I had to come. I had to be with you at the end, so you would not be alone." This was insane. I was lying in a crashed spaceship, being serenaded by a crying alien vampire who had apparently shown up to hold my hand while I died. It was a hallucination. It had to be. But the pain was too real. The coolness of her skin when she finally, gently, placed her palm on my cheek was too real. "The bleeding inside," she murmured, her amethyst eyes seeming to glow brighter as she scanned my body. "I can see it pooling. It is crushing your light." She looked at me, and in her gaze I saw a conflict, an ancient war raging behind those beautiful eyes. "There is a way," she whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. "A way to make the light bright again. But it is forbidden." "Anything." I breathed, the animal instinct to survive clawing its way past my resignation. "Please." She looked at the fangs of the Vesper. For a long, agonizing moment she was still. Then, with a decision that seemed to cost her everything, she leaned closer. Her cool breath washed over my neck. "It will feel like fire," she warned. "My kind were not meant to give, only to receive, to mourn. But the light, your light, it is too precious to let fade." I felt a pinprick on my neck, sharp and precise. It was nothing compared to the agony of my injuries. Then, a sensation that defied description. It wasn't just warmth, it was energy. It was life itself, flooding into my veins like liquid starlight. It was cold and hot at the same time, a torrent of power that raced through my limbs, knitting torn flesh, sealing ruptured vessels, forcing my heart to beat with renewed, thunderous strength. I gasped, my back arching off the couch. My vision went white. I heard a faint, pained whimper from her, and then the sensation stopped. I lay there panting, my body trembling. I raised my broken arm. The pain was gone. I rotated my shoulder. It moved perfectly. I sat up, my head clear for the first time since the crash. I was healed. I looked at her. She had slumped back against the shattered viewport, her luminescent skin now pale and dull. The silver tendrils of her hair hung limply. She looked up at me, and a faint, heartbreaking smile touched her lips. "The light," she whispered, her voice thin as a reed. "It is bright again." She had given me her life force. She had poured her own vitality into me, violating the deepest law of her species, all because she couldn't bear to watch a stranger's light go out. She was dying. For me. "No," I said, scrambling to my knees, ignoring the crunch of broken metal. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to save me and then leave. I crawled to her, gathering her fragile, cool body into my arms. She was so light, so insubstantial. The amethyst in her eyes was fading to a dull gray. "It is the way," she murmured. "The keeper gives the final flame. It is the most sacred act. I have always wanted to feel it, to truly feel the passing of a light. Now I understand. It is not sad. It is beautiful." "Don't you dare," I growled, tears I didn't know I had streaming down my face. "You don't get to find it beautiful. You stay with me. What's your name? Tell me your name." "Lyra," she breathed, the word barely a sigh. "My name is Lyra." "Lyra, listen to me. I'm Eris. And you are not dying today. Not for me. There has to be a way to give it back." She weakly shook her head. "There is no giving back. Only giving on. The flame must pass." And then a crazy, desperate idea sparked in my mind. A memory from a xenobiology briefing, a wild theory about symbiotic species. "You're kind," I said urgently. "You receive the fading light. You take it in. That's what you were doing when you found me. You were going to take my dying flame as a mourner, weren't you?" She nodded weakly. "But you gave me yours instead. So your flame is fading inside me now. It's in my blood." I held my wrist up to her lips. "Then take it back. Take a part of it. I'm healed. I'm strong. I have enough for both of us. We share it. Please, Lyra. Try." Her dull gray eyes widened with a flicker of the old amethyst. "It is not done. It has never been done. Then we'll be the first." I pressed my wrist gently against her lips. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I felt the faintest pinch, and then a gentle pull. It wasn't the torrent of power she had given me. It was a soft, warm current flowing from me to her. I felt a wave of tiredness wash over me, but it was bearable. I watched as the pale gray of her eyes began to warm, a faint swirl of purple returning. The luminescence in her skin flickered back to life, soft and warm. After what felt like an eternity, she pulled away, her eyes wide, her cheeks flushed with a faint hint of color. She stared at me, at her own hands, at the impossible thing we had just done. "We are both here," she whispered, wonder replacing the sorrow in her voice. I smiled, a genuine, overwhelming smile. "We are. The flame isn't fading, Lyra. It's just shared." She looked at me, the tears returning. But these were different. They were tears of joy. She reached up, her cool hand cupping my cheek. "Little bright one," she said, her voice strong and clear. "You have given me back my sky." From outside the broken pod, the first rays of the alien sun began to pierce the jungle canopy, painting the interior in hues of gold and amber. We sat there, a human soldier and a Vesper keeper, tangled in the wreckage, our lights intertwined, no longer fading, but burning together as one. The crash hadn't been my end. It had been my beginning. And hers.